Thanks to everyone for coming, and thanks for your patience getting started here while we worked out some technical kinks. My name is Desiree Franz, and I am the co-founder of Penticton Area Overdose Prevention Society. We are here today for this vigil in collaboration with Mom Stop the Harm South Okanagan. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that I am on the unceded I am speaking today on the unceded traditional ancestral lands of the Silk people. This vigil is being hosted on the 5th anniversary of BC declaring the overdose public health emergency. We are here to honor the lives lost unnecessarily to overdose and to ask our governing bodies why. Why have 7,000 people lost their lives since the emergency was declared? Before I turn the mic over to our elder for a prayer, I'm just going to go over a few things. We will be streaming this via Zoom and Facebook Live. If you have any privacy concerns, just remember to turn your camera off and change your name. We have 2 people on our tech support team, so if you're having any technical difficulties, speak with Isaac or Tina. And then we have Daryl and Jula if you need any emotional support or need any resources to be connected with. Those are your go-to ladies for that. We will have a chat box up and running in the Zoom, so feel free to share where you're from, how the overdose crisis has affected you, if you've lost anyone you've loved. Remember to be respectful in the chat box. It's not easy for people to be vulnerable and share their grief, so we want to make sure that it is a safe and respectful place for them to do so. And we will be keeping all your mics off until the end of the event, in which case we'll be welcoming anybody who would like to share. So now I am going to ask Dorothy Coyote to come and share a prayer with us.
Good evening. My name is Dorothy Coyote, and originally I'm from the Chilcotin, which is west of Williams Lake. I'm people of the river, but I've been living here for about 22 years now. For some reason I'm here. So yeah, I'm not sure how come yet. But however, oh great spirit, whose voice I hear in the wind, I ask that you cover us all with your bright light in the front of us, in the back, left, right, top, bottom, center.
Thank
you, Dorothy, for that wonderful prayer. So I'm going to share a little bit about my journey to recovery, and then I'm going to explain why I believe I was able to transition to my new lifestyle, and maybe it will be a little bit clear why it's not such an easy path for so many individuals in our community, and why our government's current policies are making it even more difficult. So I personally have struggled with the use of substances for 23 years. I was 11 years old the first time I used alcohol. By 13, I was doing ecstasy, and shortly after that, I was ingesting almost anything that was put in front of me. I thought I was just a typical teenager. Well, typical teenagers don't black out every weekend. They don't get sexually assaulted the number of times I have, and they don't feel like the only thing that was giving me any sense of normalcy was the one thing destroying my physical and mental health. Sorry, guys. I spoke this out loud and I didn't cry, so I'm hoping I'm going to be okay. When I became pregnant with my first daughter in the years leading up to my second daughter's first birthday, I felt like I had grown out of that lifestyle. It was just a childhood phase. I didn't need it anymore. I had everything I needed, 2 kids, a good partner, and a beautiful home. But something still wasn't right. I began drinking more frequently. The relationship with my children's father dissolved, and I was thrown into single motherhood. All of a sudden, I was a scared little girl again. I had no clue how to manage my lifestyle. My life and my lifestyle spiraled into chaos. Within 5 years, I could not get out of bed in the morning without using. I was in such an extreme amount of debt, I was spending upwards of $500 a day on substance use. Somehow through this all, I held down 2 jobs and had full custody of my kids. My breaking point when I had called my best friend who had been in recovery for a few years at this point, and I told her I couldn't go visit her for her daughter's first birthday. The trip was for 5 days and I couldn't go that long without using. Instead of shaming me or being mad at me, she told me to buy a one-way ticket. We would figure it out together, and we did, which is why I can stand here and tell you this story. What I would like to highlight now is what I believe are the reasons I was able to enter and sustain my recovery. I want people to understand that it is not just because I hit the stereotypical rock bottom or that I wanted it more. There are systemic failures that target certain individuals, which make it exponentially harder to be able to even look at recovery as an option. 1, I never overdosed. The substance I used most were alcohol and cocaine, and although using any unregulated substance puts you at risk, the supply was nowhere near as toxic as it is now. There was no need to carry naloxone for my DOC, no need to test my drugs for fentanyl. Nowadays, we are not so lucky. Substances like cocaine have been showing higher rates of containing opiates like fentanyl. It means that even people who use recreationally on weekends are becoming more and more at risk. 2, I wasn't criminalized for my substance use. Sure, I did criminal acts throughout my life, some worse than others. However, because I looked a certain way, I wasn't targeted by police. On any given day, I could have been searched and charged with possession, many days even trafficking, but because of my appearance, I never got hassled. I once even went through a roadblock intoxicated with empty beer cans in my back seat, and they didn't even breathalyze me. How many marginalized people have we seen get targeted and searched by police simply because they exist? 3, because I never received a criminal record, I am able to easily find employment. You can't work most minimum wage jobs, let alone high-paying jobs, when you have a record. If you're unable to find work, you must rely on government supports, which do not give enough to afford the high cost of rent. If you can find employment and afford rent, it is a quick search on the internet, and your potential landlord can easily find your criminal record. In such a competitive housing market, this leads to homelessness. With homelessness comes factors like trauma, unmanageability, and despair. I know that I would not be able to sustain my recovery without a home. 4, I had access to services like counseling, both through my work and publicly funded. The publicly funded was extremely hard to access. It took 2 years to get my daughter's services for the trauma they endured during my active addiction. 2 years of trying to navigate a system was traumatic enough. I would not have been able to get through that without the love and support I received, which leads me to the last and most crucial piece of what I believe is the reason I am successful in my recovery. My family and friends. Although my upbringing due to my father was chaotic and mentally abusive, I had an amazing mother, family, and friends who rallied around me with love and support. When I relapsed, and we all know there is most likely going to be a relapse in recovery, I did not have to hide it from them. They loved me even harder than they did the first time around. And they proved to me that they would be there for every stumble, every mistake, and every self-doubt I had, and loved me and make sure I knew that I have value. What I am asking you to see this list and realize that these are the things we are asking to be provided to everyone who struggles with addiction. A safe supply, decriminalization, livable wages, affordable housing, increased options for treatment and counseling, and finally, and most importantly, love and compassion from society. Without those things, I can tell you what I know in the depths of my heart to be true, that I would not be standing here today. Maybe by understanding everything I needed for recovery, you can begin to understand why the war on drugs is never and will never work. Remember, every overdose death is a policy failure, and our government has the power to change those policies. The only question I have now is why won't they? Thank you.
It's an honor to be here with everyone tonight. I first want to give a huge shout out to the organizers of this vigil. They've done an amazing job bringing everyone together. I also want to give my heartfelt thanks to all of you brave souls who have come forward to tell your stories, as hard as they may be. And lastly, I want to share my deepest condolences to those who have lost someone to this crisis. When I was asked to say a few words, I struggled with what to say. We all know how much time has passed. We all know the stats. We all know people who have been lost to this crisis. What we don't know is when it will end, and that is the hardest stat to swallow. What we do know is this crisis has raised the awareness with substance. What we do know is we have to create safe spaces for people to come forward and seek help. What we do know is we have to continually work to smash the stigma around addiction. This stigma keeps addiction underdiagnosed, undertreated, underfunded, and misunderstood by the majority of the population. We need a continuum of care that embraces all of the pillars necessary for people to succeed. We cannot decriminalize drugs without providing a safe supply. We need more people on board who can prescribe that safe supply. We cannot house and feed people when they have to spend their day in illegal activity to keep from getting sick. We need to build a continuum of connection, starting with more walk-in, community-based treatment options. We cannot think that the basic harm reduction model of naloxone kits and overdose prevention sites will get us out of this. They too are just one pillar. But in order for all of this to happen, we need mums, dads, sisters, brothers, aunts, uncles, friends, employers, politicians, and the community at large to come forward and be the voice for the person who cannot be that voice themselves. We need to educate people in our community that there is a vast, invisible majority of people out there who are ashamed to come forward. They are ashamed they have let down their families, let down their friends, let down themselves. We need to open our hearts, our arms, and embrace those who struggle so deeply. They need to feel belonging, that they have value and purpose. We need to foster the well-being of the whole person and their connectedness to themselves, their family, and their community. We need to continue to reframe public perception of addiction and the unlimited potential of recovery. We have a journey ahead of us, but we must continue to link arms, put one foot in front of the other, and be that army that can fight the good fight. Maya Angelou said it best. I have learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sheriff, and I'm standing up here today because I lost my son to an accidental overdose of fentanyl, July 17th, 2020. And since that day, I have spent the last 9 months, grieving the worst day of my life and grieving my boy so much. But I'm also taking the time to learn and find out what we really need to do so that this doesn't happen to anybody ever again. So Hayden, he was a lifelong champion. He always stood up for everyone. And he cherished the memories with his friends, and he was funny as hell. And he was a good kid. Unfortunately, some trauma struck his life when he was young, and at a grad party, he was trying to, again, defend his friends, and someone had a knife, and Hayden was stabbed, and then a young friend stepped between them, and he was stabbed and killed. And unfortunately, Hayden never forgave himself for that ever. He thought it should have been him, and he was crushed, and it was a huge trauma. And of course, he's a big, strong man, and he cannot show that he's hurting or needing help. And the stigma that we have around men, even not being able to have pain or to need help. He was given some opioids by one of the parents in this community, and they were passing them out to several of these confused teens, and they got addicted very fast. And of course they did. It was an easy escape. What did they know? And at that time, I was, I had no real idea. There was a lot of behavior issues and a lot of struggles and anger from Hayden and a lot of that. But his struggle was kept very quiet with the opiates. I didn't know that was what was going on. He ended up really trying hard and working hard, and he got away from that substance use for a few years. And he worked really hard, and he came back to BC. He met the love of his life and planned to have a family and children. Kids absolutely loved him. And, you know, I've come to find out that cocaine is like more of a party drug than when I was younger. I mean, it's just the casual, you know, rich people, poor people, everybody's using it. It's like nothing. And one time at a party with a bunch of friends, he was invited to do cocaine, and that was the end of the road for us, but we didn't know it. And he ended up, one casual time became another casual time. And, you know, I guess the draw for the opioid from cocaine to opioids is very, very similar and very strong. And, you know, his behavior started to change, and his relationship couldn't survive. And he took that spiral, downward spiral, into depression and hate of himself. And the relationship didn't survive. And he ended up back here in Penticton. And the same people that sold him those drugs many years ago were still selling those drugs, are still selling those drugs right here, except for now they're extremely toxic, very different, and very scary. And he ended up getting right back into the same thing. And he was very, very afraid. Eventually, he begged me for help and told me really what was happening, because I hadn't known, and we started to get help for him. We reached out to Pathways, and Pathways got him a counselor, and he actually said to me, you know, that was the first time somebody actually got him, somebody understood him. And so he tried to stay off of those drugs for, you know, until the next appointment. He saw Mike, and then he had another appointment, and he tried really, really hard. And one overwhelming day, he didn't refuse it, and he ended up using, and he used alone in my home in his bed, and he died. And so I saw him. I was there. Of course, the very worst day of my life. And I had a choice from that point on. Do I die too? If Hayden can die, so can I. And I didn't have any qualms with that whatsoever. I was ready. I don't have any other children. And it's taken me a long time, but getting some help with some grief counseling from Pathways, actually. And, you know, just somehow I've gotten myself involved with helping the people in this community. It's just, I'm just following other people around. I'm trying to learn what needs to be done. What I know is that we need a safe supply desperately right now. If we had a safe supply, my son might be alive, because he wasn't a bad guy, and it wasn't his time to go. He was 27 years old, and he just needed to get help. And the help is not as easy as you think. And taking things away like Pathways, you know, we just desperately, desperately need. We need safe supply, and we need to stop thinking of these people as just skid row bums, just scum of the earth. It breaks my heart, the things that people say. Right here in Penticton, I'm shocked. I'm shocked. These are real people, good people. And he could have had a chance, you know, he could have gotten straight, and he could have done a great job with the rest of his life, if only he hadn't have been poisoned. So anyways, that's my story. Thank you very, very much.
Hello, my name is Tyler. I am an addict, and I am 6 months clean and sober today. Unfortunately, I lost my brother to addiction last year, which was a huge reason I got clean and sober, and a huge reason I'm still clean today. My brother's name was Joshua, and he died from an overdose on March 18th, 2020. He was 29 years old, and ever since he's been like my guardian angel. I think about him when I'm having rough times or rough days, and I've dedicated my recovery to him. This is a letter I wrote to him shortly after getting clean and sober. Joshua, dear my little bro, sorry, my younger, bigger bro, as you like to say. How the fuck are ya? I meant to write you sooner, but I've been busy. Okay, I'll be honest, I've been pretty fucked up, man. I started using the dope pretty hard, bro. I don't know who I am or what I'm doing anymore. Somewhere along the way, I completely lost myself. But I got some good news for you, and I think you'll be proud of me. I've put down the dope and the booze for good this time. I finally got that shit under control like you wanted. You were right, bro. I was killing myself. For a long time, all I did was hurt myself and everyone I loved. Yeah, that includes you too. I love you, Josh. I love you like a fucking bro. And you're welcome. I'm glad I made you tough. I don't think I did that intentionally, though, I'll be honest. When I used to beat you up as kids, I'm pretty sure I wasn't thinking, gee, I hope this will make him tough and strong so he can kick my ass one day. But hey, it is what it is. I'm just happy you're happy. And everything worked out okay. I kind of wish I had an older brother that toughened me up. Shit, I'm a fucking pussy. I'm glad you feel I was always there for you. Looking back now, I feel I definitely could have treated you better. I've been there more for you when you needed me. I wasn't there for anyone when I started drinking. As your older brother, I wasn't a very good role model. I knew very well you pretty much did whatever I did, and I didn't set a very good example for you. It was only a matter of time after I started drinking and drugging that you were going to start as well. I can't change the things I've done, but I can tell you that I'm sorry, and I can change the things I'm doing today. I couldn't keep going the way I was going anymore. I finally hit my rock bottom. It may have looked like I hit my rock bottom many times, like when I lost everything and ended up homeless on the street, or when I lost my kids and my fiance cheated and left me, or when I became a junkie and ended up in jail. And finally, when I overdosed and died, surely that was rock bottom. But it wasn't. Not the first time, or the second, or the third, etc. My rock bottom was worse than all that shit. And it wasn't something that even happened to me at all. It happened to you, Josh. You died. You passed away from an overdose on March 18th, 2020. That was my rock bottom. I didn't even get to say goodbye, man. I didn't know how to deal with the pain, so I buried it as best I could the only way I knew how. I tried not to think about you. It hurt so bad. I cried. I still cry. I cried a lot with Mom and Dad. Mom didn't take it very well. You were their baby. Dad holds it in, but I know he's hurting inside too. It feels like a nightmare, but I can't wake up. It feels like only yesterday we were together in the shelter. You had Sally, and I had Sam. Sally loved you so much. Sam was my best buddy. We had that whole fenced area for them to run and play together. They had so much fun. We used to have fun together like that. Remember when you got out of jail? I came back home on the Greyhound to get you. But first I took you to the Calgary Stampede. We had a blast. Then I brought you back to BC with me. I gave you a place to live and a job, and you became my partner. I wanted to help you every way I could for you to start over and have a better life. It was summer, and we lived a block from the lake, bro. We had a lot of fun that summer. The best summer I've ever had in a long time. Possibly my best summer ever, yeah. Remember our first job? We drywalled a house in Revelstoke. Nate drove us there, and the plan was to camp out in the basement until we were done, but we forgot our damn sleeping bags. We found a box of Super Duty construction bags, and we ended up using them as sleeping bags. We were there 5 days and 4 nights in those damn bags. We made good money, though. Remember, we went to the mall in Kelowna during our second job together. This time we got a hotel room to stay in. Those beds were so comfy, right? Anyway, we went to the mall after work one day and we both bought phones, and then you went to the jewelry store after and you ended up buying a pretty nice silver chain. You wore that chain every day. Mom thought you might want me to have it. Now I wear it every day. I never take it off, bro. So I know you're always with me. I could go on. I could probably write a book about all the shit we did together. We had a lot of good times, Josh, and a few not so good times. But I'm only holding on to the good memories. There's a couple things I want to tell you, bro. Things I never had a chance to say. And things I feel I need to say. First of all, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Josh. Sorry I wasn't the older brother I should have been. I'm sorry I wasn't there for you when you needed me the most. I'm sorry for how I treated you in the past and more recently in my addiction. You deserved more from me. You deserved better. And I'm so proud of you, bro. You decided to go get help. We decided to go get help together. And when the day came, I bitched out. And you followed through. I let you down, and I'm sorry. I woke the next morning, and you were gone. We were arguing the night before, and we never said goodbye. I never saw you again. Sometimes it's very hard to believe you're really gone. Sometimes I think it was my fault, or that it should have been me and not you. But I'm learning to accept the things I cannot change. I'm trying to do better today and not worry so much about tomorrow. I'm almost 60. I'm almost 6 months clean and sober now. I'm living in a recovery house here in Penticton called Discovery House. I go to 2 meetings a day, NA, and Narcotics Anonymous or Alcoholics Anonymous. And I started working the 12 steps. I just finished my step 4. I'm working hard on myself and my recovery. I'm learning so much, bro. I'm learning how to live clean and sober. I've made some real friends in recovery. I got myself a sponsor, and guess what? His name is Joshua too. He's become more than just my sponsor. He's become a really close friend. I'm doing good, man. Mom and Dad are proud. I got my glasses again, finally, and I passed my knowledge test, got my learner's license back. Things are getting better. This program saved my life. I'm not a toothpick anymore. I gained like 50 pounds. 190 last time I checked. Anyway, I think you'd be proud. I wish you were here doing this with me. I miss you so much, Josh. You were my best friend. I don't want to stop writing this letter. For some reason, I feel closer to you right now. I talk a lot about you, and I think about you all the time. I know you were always with me, and I believe we will see each other again one day. I love you, Joshua. I'll miss you forever. One day maybe I'll be able to accept that you're gone, and one day I'll understand why I'm still here. For now, I'm just taking it one day at a time. I've been fucked up for a long time, but today I'm an addict in recovery, and I dedicate my recovery to you, Joshua. Your brother, Tyler.
Hi there. I am Jill Martin, also known as Daniel's mom. On April 30th, 2016, 2 weeks after BC declared a public health emergency due to an epidemic of drug overdoses and deaths, my son Daniel died from an unintentional fentanyl overdose alone in his vehicle up in City Park, Kelowna. So how has the overdose crisis affected me? It's actually transformed me. How could it not? This is what I know. The presence of Daniel's absence is always with me. Living without Daniel is the most unnatural way for me to live out my remaining years. I grieve for the loss of the future I'd always imagined sharing with him. Now there is an empty chair at our family celebrations, no daughter-in-law, no grandchildren. It sucks. More than any words I can find to describe. It's a brutal forced separation that was both senseless and preventable, thanks to our archaic drug policies and laws. We are in a deep toxic drug supply crisis. The 24 years that I got to spend with Daniel weren't nearly long enough, but they have changed me and enriched my life immeasurably. I wouldn't trade them for anything. Realizing this has been the beginning of my being able to see some meaning in my grief. Meaning is the love I feel for Daniel. Meaning is the way I have chosen to bear witness to the gifts he gave me, like the courage to speak here in public being one of them. For all of us, meaning is a reflection of the love that we have for those we have lost. My relationship with Daniel has changed since his death, but it has also continued. The deep love we have for each other knows no boundaries. I have had to learn how to have a new relationship with him. I continue to learn and grow from Daniel every day in my life. I've come to understand how damaging stigma is. We need to crush it. It leaves no place for compassion, which is so vital for connection, communication, and the sharing of our vulnerabilities. I am more aware of the suffering of others and offer to help as often as I can. I speak openly about substance use disorder to challenge the stigma and the barriers that prevent people from getting the help they both need and deserve. The vast majority of us have drugs in our lives, some legal, some not. I advocate for the decriminalization of drugs for personal use and a regulated safe supply. I've learned to forgive myself for underestimating the power of drugs and addiction prior to Daniel's death. I now attempt to educate people about the cunning strategies that drugs use to rewire the brain for continued use, despite the negative consequences and the risk of multiple relapses. I realize now more than ever in this world in which we live, it is critical to hold on to our children, engage with them, and learn new parenting skills to stop the unintentional cycle of passing down trauma from one generation to the next. I connect more deeply and meaningfully with my family, friends, life, and nature. No more worrying about shallow first world problems. I live in the moment and I take nothing for granted. I promote organ donation and transplant. Sad but true, Daniel's suffering ended the suffering of 4 very fortunate people here in British Columbia. He had signed his organ donation card. Daniel gave the gift of life. His lungs, liver, and kidneys were transplanted on May 3rd and 4th, 2016. Live life, pass it on, decriminalize, and regulate a safe supply. Thank you for the opportunity to love, remember, and honor Daniel.
So, how has the overdose crisis affected you?
I don't know if there was, well, I wasn't aware there was a crisis, but I guess, in the last couple of years, I've lost, 7 good friends to overdose. It's not necessarily that the overdose took their lives, it's just the Narcan didn't work, or the ambulance didn't show up on time, or didn't get to the hospital on time. It's still a sad thing. It's only while I was attending their overdose they passed. I guess you could call it a crisis. I lost 7 friends, and a friend of mine lost 7 friends. That's 14 people. That's not a very long span of time to lose 14 people. So I wish there was some way we could solve this problem, that's for sure.
Do you think that the BC government, after declaring the public health emergency, has done enough to combat the overdose crisis?
I don't know if, should it be their responsibility though, or should it be us as addicts to be responsible for our own overdosing? Like, I know when I went through my own little crisis in my head, I did try to take my own life 6 separate times between these 2 different shelters here in town, unbeknownst to the staff. I was just stuck in a hard spot in my head and I didn't know how to talk to anybody, and that's, I think, one of the biggest things is we need to provide some source of, like a hotline isn't exactly a good answer. They need to know that there's actually someone that's going through the same problem in their head or had similar things happen to them, that I'm here to help you. I can talk you through anything you need to know. You know what I mean? You need a peer
Yeah.
to be there for them, I think.
Do you have any advice for anyone who is struggling with an addiction or who has lost someone to the overdose crisis?
You know, if you're ever stuck in your head and you think there's no other way out and it's time that you're going to go because you can't deal with it anymore, just remember there are people out there that care, that love you, even if they haven't met you. And I, for one, am one of them. I've got friends that are still struggling with addiction because of the pain they're going through. They don't need to be going through it. I can almost walk them through every problem that they've got, maybe. But I'm willing to try because it's a lot better than losing that life.
Hello, my friend. Tell me who you are and how the overdose crisis has affected your life.
I'm Connie Warren, and my best friend lost her son to the overdose crisis that's happening right now. Hayden was a really, really special man. I didn't get to see him very often up until the last couple of weeks that he was here. And he was trying so hard to change, but just couldn't get to that point, I don't think. He made me feel like he was trying, that he was going to change. But unfortunately, he lost his struggle. And I know I've felt down like that before myself, not that bad. And I pulled myself out, but there's so many people out there that just need somebody to help them in some way. And there's just too many people that just don't want to have anything to do with them and they don't want to take the time to just open their hearts and their homes and just try and help in some way. Unfortunately, there's so many people that struggle, and they look at them like they're trash, and they're not. They're human beings. They're people like us that have just struggled through their lives and haven't had somebody to help them. And they just need somebody to listen and give them a chance, give them an opening for trying to do something better, helping themselves. And unfortunately, there's just too many negative people out there and not enough people to help. And I'd love to be one of those people that help. I just have to find my way to help out, do something. But it's affected me because my friend is struggling so bad with what she's dealing with. And it hurts me because she's lost her only son. And there's so many other mothers out there that are losing their kids, and they're not all druggies that are thieves and not wanting to do anything but support their habit. They're just trying to get by day by day, not being able to deal with what's going on in their own heads. And people have to understand there's so much going on that we have no idea because they don't talk about it. They're afraid to open up. Nobody wants to listen. They need those people to listen. But it's heartbreaking to see how many people are struggling now and how many people we're losing, how many kids we're losing. I just want people to start caring about one another and caring about each other.
My name is Nicola Kill. I'd like to start by thanking Desiree. You're an inspiration. Your journey was hard, and you should be proud of yourself. I'm proud of you, and I don't know you. Corey was 34 years old when he passed away. He was one of 3 bright lights of our lives. He was always smiling. He was very inquisitive. He loved to explore. He was a deep thinker. He never backed down. He was a hard worker and he loved to build things. He had a strong alliance to his Canadian sport team. He was very kind. He was a father to a 7-year-old son. He was my son. Corey was an alcoholic who struggled in and out of this disease for many years. He didn't want to stay that way. He knew what was right and wrong. He tried so hard to break away from this. He would get help, but something was always missing. Through all of this, he was supported. He was loved. He was alone. He was restrained. He was beaten. He stumbled. He fell. He recovered. He relaxed. He was stigmatized. He was ashamed. And he was depressed. Everyone has a story, and for the most part, we don't know that story. All lives matter. It's really that simple. Be thankful and kind. Live simply. Do your best. Use please and thank you. Cherish your family and friends. Never give up and believe in yourself. Listen with your heart. Help others. Laugh often and love lots. Please remember to be humble and kind. This is just one mom's story. Sadly, there are many more. Too many. I am now part of a group that I wish on no other. Amazing women who are always also struggling to live without their child. We call them warriors. They are united. And we will now push and push harder. It still shocks me to see my son on a poster, thinking that, where is he? Substance abuse does not discriminate. This could happen to anyone at any time. There are no second chances in this for some people. We are not getting to the root of the problem. We need help. We need to dissect these issues and come together to find a way to help. 5 years and the numbers are getting worse. 5 years ago, I admit I wasn't paying attention to this. Unfortunately, I'm now part of a statistic and learning to pay attention. I have had to learn the hard way, paying the ultimate price for this. I am now enduring the pain and the loss of a child. My brain has been rewired. It feels like it was smashed by a big boulder. I'm having trouble putting the pieces back together. This trauma is not my choice, but it's how I live now. I work very hard every day to try to overcome the trauma I've endured. It's exhausting, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. Corey passed away from a lethal combination of alcohol and prescription drugs. He should have never had the amount of prescription drugs he had with him. My son died alone with no one holding him or holding his hand. But with brave wings, he now flies. Now I must be strong enough to face another day. And in closing, this is just a phrase that is dear to my heart, and I know it was with Corey. He struggled and he tried, but something else won. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom. What a difference. Thank you.
So how has the overdose crisis affected you, Tim?
Makes me nervous because I use fentanyl too, right? I think we should have an overdose prevention site up, right?
Yeah.
That's my feeling, open to the public.
Have you ever lost anyone to overdose?
A few friends, yeah.
Do you want to talk about them for a minute?
Doc. He was a good friend. He helped a lot of people out on the street. He lived in the towers at BC Housing there. And he was just a really good support for me, right? And it was sad to hear that he OD'd, right?
Yeah.
It really hit me hard because he was an older, someone I looked up to as a role model type, right? You know, he's been around and
Do you, oh, go ahead.
it made me cry. I did they did a thing, Pastor Pete did a thing for him at the park or whatever, right?
So a memorial service?
Memorial service to remember my stuff. I didn't get to actually attend that, but I wished I did. It hit me hard.
So I guess my last question would be, do you feel like the BC government has done enough since they've declared the health emergency 5 years ago?
No. I think they need to do more.
Do you have suggestions? What do you think would work?
Legalize it and prescribe it.
Yeah.
Right? To people.
What do you think the benefits or that would be to decriminalization and safe supply?
Less chance of overdose. It's controlled, I guess, right?
How are you finding the drug supply right now? Do you feel it's stronger? Do you feel like you're having different effects from it?
It's stronger. I notice my methadone's not working sometimes. My voice just went.
Yeah, that's okay. Is there anything else you would like to share if people are listening and want to support people who are struggling with their substance use? What kind of advice would you give them, Tim?
Go to meetings or find a program or do something. Detox, treatment. I've thought about doing it.
Yeah. Do you think there's adequate treatment in this community?
I don't know. It's hard with the using here because it's triggered me. I've gone downhill since I've moved in here.
Yeah.
Right? I've gone backwards, whereas I was in Fairhaven before in that program they were running there, Interior Health, and I got kicked out of it, but I was more progressive. I was a year off the down, right?
Yeah.
Since I moved in here, it's been relapse, right?
Okay. Anything else you want to share?
No, that's pretty much it. Just keep safe to everybody.
So how has the overdose crisis affected you?
Affected me in every way possible, pretty much. It's taken multiple loved ones from me, people I couldn't believe I could live without. It's taken away my own self-respect, my own dignity, my my own like version of myself. I don't even know where I am or who I am anymore, and no idea how to get back.
Do you want to talk about some of the people that you've lost?
Yeah, the first few years, I lost my my best friend and my girlfriend in the same week. That was before Narcan was readily available. And then even I managed to lose my previous girlfriend here, who's still alive, but it turned her into someone that I didn't know anymore, and the person that I left was a stranger to me. I had no idea even who she was anymore. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
It's amazing how much it can make someone not them anymore. Like I've always heard the cliche, like how drugs turn somebody into somebody that they didn't even know anymore. But I literally watched it happen in less than 6 months. Someone that I was planning on marrying became someone I couldn't stand to be around.
Do you think the government has done enough since they declared the health emergency?
Making Narcan readily available and easily available for everybody was a good start and everything, because it has saved countless lives. But there needs to be more like actual help offered, or easier ways for people to get help to get off it, because it is an incredibly hard addiction to break, both mentally and physically. And just a lot of us feel completely hopeless on it, and so there's no point of trying, because it's already so hard for us to live. Even just to try it that way, it's hard. Hard is an understatement.
Do you have any advice for people who might be watching this vigil and have loved ones who struggle with addiction or are struggling themselves?
Yeah, just know that they're already struggling more than you could ever possibly imagine. Don't get me wrong, I know everybody has their own struggles, but I can assure you that theirs are particularly hard. It's not just a choice. They didn't just make that choice. It's not, oh, they chose to do drugs, it's their own fault. It's not like that. It's so much more complicated than that. And it's just maybe don't make their life any harder than it already is. If you can help them, but if you're not going to help them, just stay away, please.
Is there any other thing you would like to share about how your life has been impacted in these last 5 years?
Yeah, I'm really trying to get back to it, but one of the things that I want to say is, I'm still a person. I'm not just some drug addict, or I'm not just going to rob you, or somebody who's going to steal from their own mother or something like that. I'm still a normal person. I still try to help other people on every day. I'm still a person. I'm not just another face of a junkie.
Anything else? No.
Hello, my name is Shannon Smith. My son Matthew died December 3rd, 2017 from a carfentanil poisoning overdose. Again, like the other moms have said, and thank you for your reaching out and your speeches. It brings my heart out. It changed my life forever. It changed our family's life forever. Nothing is ever going to be the same. And I still wonder how I get through the day. And it's been a little over 3 years. Never in my wildest dreams, ever in my thoughts, did I ever think my son was going to become a statistic for the opioid crisis. He's a person, just like every person that we've lost to this crisis is a person, and they have meaning and they have lives. He was a wonderful, kind, caring, compassionate person. There wasn't anybody that he didn't meet, touch in their lives that hadn't said kind words about him. He would walk in a room and he would light it up. As much as we grieve for him, our family, days that I don't even know how I can get by. But what pains me and hurts me the most is knowing the pain and suffering that he endured trying to battle this addiction. I would really like to see better treatment centers for everybody that is more accessible. Again, lose the stigma. We all need to educate ourselves, and a safe drug supply. And let's hope that we can lower the numbers and not have this happen to any other person, child, husband, brother, sister, that. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So how has the overdose crisis affected you?
It's affected me, I guess, the way I see people. Now I try to remember individual people and not group and stereotype like the rest of society does, more or less. You see anybody in this walk of life now, and you hear other people, and they think we're all addicts, all of us. And I have to remind myself hard that we're not addicts, we're human beings, each and every one of us. So I catch myself calling people zombies instead of people, you know, it's their name instead. And I stop myself every time I hear the word come out of my mouth and say, no, wait, they're not a zombie. It's because you see them and they're on the verge of overdosing, where they're not coherent. You can shake them and then they'll maybe what, but then they go back to slurring their words and out, and then you panic and you want to give them CPR, but you can't because they're there, but they're not at home, and then you sit and babysit them, and it's taxing, all of it on me seeing that and not being able to say safely that I want to leave them, you know, and with 64 people I've revived and 3 lost in my hands due to their action. It's a big deal. You know, it takes a piece out of you. No, I have to literally step away.
Do you want to talk about some of the people you've lost?
No.
Yeah.
It's too close for me.
Do you think that the BC government has been doing enough since they declared the emergency?
No, they have not. Again, I have to remind myself that we're people, individuals. And I think the government has forgotten that too when they try to help the crisis. They're not really. I've heard a health official sitting with him at Starbucks, actually. We connected over photography and then began a conversation about the crisis. And he and himself admitted that there wasn't enough, and that now it's a new form of addict, a completely new form of addict where they don't know which way to approach. And I myself said, that's a good point, because it's gone beyond the terms that originally defined addict. Now we're looking at as more of an umbrella term, because there's an addict, and then there's users, and then there's coping addicts. There's all different types and forms, and that's where we have to remember the individual. Each program isn't going to work for everybody, and we have to sit down with each individual and find out why they need help, and actually listen to that question. And active listening is something that's began to be something hard for government and health officials to use that tool when it comes to the crisis and the addicts and the individuals, the people, because they just want to get rid of it and clean it up now, tickety-boo, but it's not going anywhere. It's actually got worse. So it'd be nice to see if they stepped back, took a breath, a mini vacation too, to take care of themselves, because it is a hard thing to deal with people. I know it is. And began to ask, what do you need help with? And I think some of the things might seem preposterous, but it does work. It helps, and it will be more effective than some of the things that they've done. I mean, the Acadian program had some success, and now it's tapered off. Some people benefited from it, but there is a lot of pain out there, you know, and the referral process is it's a ordeal to go through. But if you have enough support workers, you can get through it. But if you're I call us disordered. If we're in the disordered, then life is hard. Just to maintain yourself every day. And you know, I mean, some of us do well, but it's tiring. It is, but you know, this is where you're either cut from the cloth of your survival of the fittest or not. And hopefully we are, because you have to look at us all the same. You know, nobody's better than the other. But if we are doing a little better than somebody else, then we remember to hold a hand up instead of down is the best thing we could do for each other.
Hello, everybody. My name is Gordon Portman. I'm a client at Discovery House as of June 27, 2020. My clean date is May 22nd, 2028. I'm 11 months away from, I'm 11 months clean. I was in my addiction for 17 years. Last year, March 28th, I rescued 3 people from a house fire in Duncan Avenue. I saw a picture of me on the front page of the paper, and I was like, wow, I need help. And that's what it took me to get clean. I seen that picture of me, I was like, you know, a lot of my friends, that picture was going back and forth. I lived here for all my life, you know, and so many people were disappointed, and I knew that it was time for me to get clean. Not only did I save 3 people's lives in that fire, but I saved my own life. I detoxed for 27 days at a friend's house because I had nowhere to detox here in Penticton. Coming off methamphetamine. I started feeling better. And I went to Pathways, and they got me into Discovery House, and that place saved my life. 180 meetings in 90 days. I got a sponsor. I do support group. I do my step work, and I work on myself daily. I spent 11 months now in recovery, and I take it one day at a time. This year I worked at Apex all winter. Back to my roots. I used to be an Olympic potential freestyle skier, and I got in a bad car accident, and I broke my back and my neck. And I got into opiates. Next year, now being at Apex all winter, they asked me next year to be a freestyle coach. Work with, you know, I'd be freestyle coach with some of the best freestylers in the world. You know, that was what I wanted to do all my life, was be a professional freestyle skier. I got a job now, and I feel like a productive member of my society again. We need more places like Discovery House, the place that saves lives. You know, I want to say thank you to the Canadian Humane Society for giving me the Silver Medal of Bravery this year, for seeing those people in that fire, and that's what it took for me to get clean and sober. And I want to say thank you, and that saved my life.
I am especially moved that I got to be a part of this and hear the wonderful things heard tonight. I want to thank everyone for joining us online today. I know with COVID, things like this look a little differently, so thank you for participating in hearing the beautiful stories from Mom Stop the Harm members, Sheriff, Jill, Nicola, and Shannon. I want to thank Gord for sharing his story. He wasn't on our original agenda, and he was so moved and compelled to share. So thank you so much, Gord. I want to thank our support members, Jula, Isaac, Tina, and Daryl, who was not only support all over Zoom, but also that wonderful message on behalf of Pathways. Thank you to the video contributors, Amy, Sylvan, Matt, Tim, Tyler, and Connie. It was really great that we had the opportunity to share more stories with the limited numbers we could have in person. Thank you to my wonderful partner, Shane, for being our tech guy. Dorothy for starting us off with a beautiful prayer, and last but not least, Stephanie for being the glue that held this event together. We'll open it up a little bit at the end here if people online want to share anything or feel comfortable doing so. But before we do that, I just want to encourage everyone to reach out either to my society, Penticton and Area Overdose Prevention Society, or to Mom Stop the Harm. I know that there are some really great initiatives going on, you know, in the Okanagan and all over BC that is really trying to put pressure on our government to make the changes necessary to save people's lives. I was almost going to wear a shirt today and it said, you know, do you know someone affected by the overdose crisis? And it says, if nothing changes, you will. This is taking our parents, our siblings, our loved ones, our friends, our family. No one is immune to this crisis, and it's only going to get worse unless we put pressure on the governing bodies to do something about it. So again, thank you for participating and listening to everybody speak. Thanks.
could start with Desiree.